So I want to give a little bit more fresh water. Uh, Finish trying to clean off this rooting system. Make sure that when you guys do this, your water is not cold. Um, you don't want to give this poor thing a shock. Okay, there we go. System. Okay, pretty cool. So what I want to start doing now is start taking off some of these side ones here. These really long ones. Just make it to where it's only wide enough to fit inside of your pot, because the rooting system underneath is really nice. It has a lot of really thicker portions of roots there, so that's going to grab on really nicely at the bottom. These small ones on the side as well. So you don't need all these super long ones that are here. So I'm going to just go ahead and trim these little guys off. None of these are needed. Same thing with these over here on this side. I mean, these are super long. Definitely not needed as much. It'll also help to keep your bonsai small. So it'll grow gradually instead of having big bursts of leafing and so forth. Whole point of a bonsai is obviously you have to keep them small, but also keep them nourished. You know, don't deprive them of the vitamins that are needed. There we go. Let's see here. Try and see which other ones we can either cut off or extend out. They got super compressed in that old pot there. So you want to try to keep these healthy. I think that about does it. I might cut a little bit, couple more off the top here. This bonsai is doing a really good job though at rooting and keeping itself together. It's perfect. It's beautiful. There you go. Let's see. Yeah, see this bottom root there? You can tell these were already clipped from someone else here. So it was probably growing really intensely last year, or, a year or 2 years ago. You can tell because they've been in that pot definitely for a very long time. So try to get some of these untangled. These are the bigger roots. Obviously they've been around a lot longer. If you notice, see how long these ones are, but they're all compacting right underneath the tree, which is fine. But you also want to leave some of these so they grab onto the newer pot, and that way when you do train your bonsai, it's has some, obviously some force to hold on to the new soil. So what I'm trying to do right now is actually extend these out. I want to see how long they are, and I want to leave them, to that length of that new the new pot. So there's a couple of really nice hardy ones here. You see that? There we go. Yeah, these are all the main roots. There we go. I'm definitely going to leave some of these around. I wanted to be able to grab on to the new soil, but I'm actually extending them. I want them to take a different route besides being stuck right underneath that base. Definitely not healthy for a bonsai to just have everything centralized right in the middle. So there's a bunch of little roots here too. So I'm gonna take some of these off the main ones. There you go. Get some of these off of the main one. It's not needed. That's not needed. This one's not needed. There you go. So I think I have it to where I want it to go. So now when I re-soil, I want to re-soil, leave this stump here underneath the soil itself, as well as this one here to, right about half up that trunk. You want to be able to maintain the strength of that tree through having all your soil, or as much of your soil, your roots under that soil. I'm just gonna take some of this system of roots that are growing. They were growing way too far up on the base. Try to get some of those off. Ugh. That's another reason I try to wash these off. I don't want my clippers to get all screwed up because there's all the rocks underneath it still. So there we go. All right. So it seems like that's about as far as I want to get with that, with removing the roots. Okay, that's about right. Take a little bit more off of this side. Like I said, these main ones, I'd really like to leave some of these there. What I'm going to do though is, it seems like there's two really long ones here that I might not need. So I'm just going to cut one of the two. There we go. There you go. Just make sure that your radius ones are out. This one's just seem to be forming right back underneath, so which is fine. They'll eventually start working their way down onto the new pot. There you go. So now, what you want to really do is get your your soil to the height of where you want your bonsai to be. So let's try to get some of these roots out of the way. So I'm gonna want it, right below the rim. So I got to build up that soil that I have put in underneath. So I'm gonna go ahead and build that up a little bit more. That way this is not sitting way too low, but definitely enough to where I'm gonna protect it from getting too much sunlight the first few weeks there. It's a little bit too much. Okay, so I think I've added just about enough how much I wanted on there. Go ahead and sit this little guy. I'm actually going to work it in there a little bit to be able to grab onto new soil. And the thing is, when you replant these, you don't want your soil to be soaked when you're doing this, because you want it to be able to work itself into the new rooting system. So, and this won't be its permanent home. I'm gonna leave it here probably for the next year. Get it in a nice pot. Once I start training it, then I'll remove it from here and start, putting it into a pot that's going to be suitable for it to stay in for the next maybe 2 to 3 years after that. Now, but this one I definitely want to do it. I want to put it in here. Now that I've cleaned up the the roots on it, and just so it gets acquainted again with being nutritioned and blooming, and you know, and restarting its new roots. But like I said, don't put it in direct sunlight for a little while, for about 2 weeks. You want to definitely make sure that those roots start to grab onto the new soil and feel comfortable with their new home. Okay. Even if you have to go a little bit higher on the soil just to protect those roots for a couple of weeks, that's fine, and then you can go back in and knock a little bit off the top. I like doing that just to be safe, make sure that they're okay. You know, there's always going back and, like I said, knocking off a little bit of the dirt. But for now, I definitely want it to be to grab onto its new soil. There we go. I'm just gonna compress it just a tiny little bit. You don't want to compress it too much either, because then you want to be able to, you want those roots to be able to move around in there and start grabbing a hold all on their own. Okay, so that'll complete that. I'm gonna actually just soak it down right now. Rinse off here. Give these leaves a little bit of a clean here. Alright. I just like keeping these leaves all clean and stuff too, so not a big deal. Alright, so there it goes. Its new home. These little guys, these are the new little leaves growing there. So I like using these little squirt bottles to, when I repot them and stuff like that, just to soak it all down at least this one time, so they grab on nicely to their new soil. It helps you kind of even out the soil too, the little water running here. There you go. There we go. So I did it just enough to where it's actually draining out of the bottom. You know, soak it down this one time. So you want it to be able to be doing all of this. Okay. And now for a little bit of shade for the next week and a half or two. So then what I'm going to do is actually in the evenings when the sun's going down, I'll take it out, let it enjoy about an hour worth of nice sunlight. And it should be good. So that's the lesson for the day. Hope you guys liked the video. Thank you for adding the channel. This is Cruz from Golden Bay Bonsai. See you guys soon. Much love.